Merry Christmas.
All right. Yeah, no, it's fine. It's usually rough. All right. So, hi everyone. It's been a while. I'm your host Jiggy with my co-host Azwani, aka Dr. Umar Johnson, and we have a special guest today. A friend from high school, a very dear friend. We have Nala. Not going to say the last name because we don't want you guys creeping on her. But we have a good episode for you today. It's our first guest ever, and I'm excited to see what Nala has to say about the prompts that we usually just come off with off the top of our head. So first, I want to do sort of like a wellness check. How are you guys doing today?
I'm okay. I'm honored to be your first guest. I'm really excited for this. And I'm just tired. I'm a senior. I'm ready to graduate. And yeah.
Preach.
Yeah.
Preach. I think we're all in the same boat, right?
Yeah, like I just finished
We're all
up my
graduating this year?
midterms.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, graduating this year.
We made it.
I want to die, but we're here. I'm alive, but
Speak one more time.
speak.
Oh, yes. Okay.
Okay, cool. Don't worry, I'll cut all that out. But okay, good to see that you guys are doing well. I know that, like you said, senior year it's something, but we're at the end of the road. We have I know I have like a month and a half left or so, but
Yeah, same here. I finish end of May.
okay.
Lucky. I'm on a quarter system, so I'm finishing like early June.
Okay, you're still.
I'm on a quarter system too.
Yeah. Oh,
Hmm.
lucky. Okay. That was dirty.
All right. So the first question that I actually want to toss your way, Nala, is being black in high school versus being black in college. Is there a difference that you see, or like what has been your experience between the two, if you don't mind sharing?
Getting right into it.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I think that's a great question because I feel like, we all went to Pali, so we know how it was. Like, we know what it's like to feel black going to a PWI, a priority white institution. Me coming to UCSC, like, it was like really white, like even priority like whiter institution.
Mm-hmm.
So I feel like there's probably 200 black students on this entire campus of 20,000. So I think it was just significantly different for me because you see a black person and you're like, oh wow, like I need to be in community with them because there are so few of us.
Mm-hmm.
You could even walk through the city of Santa Cruz in a group of black people, like 3 or 4 black people, and everyone will stare at you. Going to CVS with your friends, you may get followed by security. I feel like, going to Pali, you always have this ideal of like, yeah, I'm like black in a white space, but I feel like it got exponentially like more significant when I went to college.
Okay. Like you became more aware of not necessarily who you are, but just like of your blackness in a sense.
Exactly, because you go to Pali and there's not a lot of black people. Let's just say there's 200 black students in Pali's 2,000, so it's still normal to see a black person. It's still
Right.
very normal and kind of liberal compared to experiences I've heard from other people in their high schools.
Mm-hmm.
But you leave Pali and you go into LA, there's plenty of black people. At the time I lived in South Central, so you can leave your city, you can go home and still be surrounded by people who look like you. Here you have to drive like an hour and a half away to Oakland just to go to a hair store or get some good soul food.
Yeah.
So.
To get to the more culturally diverse like neighborhoods in a sense. Yeah.
Exactly.
And I feel like for people who don't know, when it comes to defining like someone's or your own personal blackness, it has to do more with how comfortable you feel in being who you are in a sense, because we've all heard of code switching. We've talked about it here before on the podcast, how as a black person we constantly have to like switch up how we speak to other people of other ethnicities, whether they be white, Latino, or Latinx, Asian. It switches because we don't want to be the stereotype that has always been around even before we were born. It's like we just have to identify like, hey, I can talk proper, quote unquote, and I can also talk, I can also be a little bit rough around the edges. Like it's just who you are as a black person. That's sort of a survival tactic, I would say. You have to sort of adopt. And especially going to college, it's like, okay, yeah, it's the upper echelon of like society in a sense, even though people still have their own mannerisms and how they act and whatnot. But I feel like you should really still be able to be yourself in a sense. Like I shouldn't have to always code switch just, because I'm in a space that I'm not, people like me aren't typically in.
I completely agree. I feel like it's almost a survival tactic that we have to do to, again, just make it. I mean, and I think also it's not only being in white spaces. I think, again, no matter how you speak, like, you can be in these white spaces, your vernacular may change a little bit, but then you come back home and then people may look at you a certain type of way and say that you're, um, not black enough.
Mm-hmm.
And I feel like as black people, we're constantly in a almost identity crisis and wondering, like, who am I? Am I this enough? Does this mean I need to completely shun out my blackness because I'm not accepted anyway?
Right.
And I feel like there's just a lot of things we always need to, like, go through as far as our identity, especially, like, being black within the other identities you may have, like being queer on top of that, other disadvantages you may have, like, really just make it such a layered issue, and feeling like you may even need to choose a struggle and not be able to, like, embrace your intersectionality.
Definitely. There's no one type of black person or black experience, like, just ever. But I was wondering, what about you? Because I know you go to school in the South, Georgia. So is there any difference?
way.
In, yeah.
No, I'm deep down in the South over
The
here.
dirty South.
And it's crazy. I go to school in the South, but I'm the token black kid everywhere I go. My so since I am in advertising major, there's like art director and copywriting. Those are the two sort of professions you can do. And copywriting is like, just making words sound pretty and shit. And the copywriting class that I had, I literally got like tokenized because I was black. I had a meeting with the professor just to go over work and shit. And then she mentioned that, like, oh, like voices like yours need to be heard. And I was like, oh, like my words, like, am I good at what I do? And then, like, this is what I was thinking. And then she was like, yeah, I've been teaching here for 10 years, and you're the second black person to have really good work. And I was like, what the fuck did you just say to me? All right, cool. I'm gonna head out. So then I left. But every single class that I'm in, there's a fair amount of like international students, like people that are Asian, Japanese, Korean, Indian, like Latin, but I'm the only black person. Like, pretty much always and forever. Now that I'm out of here, I don't have any black kids in my class, so it sucks. But honestly, I feel like at least where like my career is gonna take me, it's gonna be like Pally for the rest of my life, where you're gonna be surrounded by a lot of Caucasians, and you're gonna have like a splash of diversity here and there, but at least in all the agencies and stuff that like I'm looking into and I'm applying to, the black community is so far and few in between. So, it is what it is, but still kind of sucks.
Yeah, I get it. I feel like more so in college, like, you do not have to be that token black person, but I feel more comfortable doing it because I feel like college is more of a melting pot of people who you come into contact with. So once again, shout out to Mr. Klima. He's one of the few teachers who are like, who made people not uncomfortable, but he made them comfortable with being uncomfortable talking about, black words that are centered around black community, like the N-word, this, that, and the other thing. But in college, I really took that and I was like, you know what? In my gender studies class, my first semester here, there was maybe 4 black people in the class and I was one of them. And it got to a lot of issues where, like, okay, hey, no one else is going to say anything. So I'm going to speak up not only because I'm a guy, like I'm biologically a male, but I'm also a black male. So I feel like I have a lot to offer to this conversation. And so it's not so much about like, oh, I'll do it because I have to. It's like, oh no, I want to give people these experiences or these like wisdom. I don't like saying that word because I'm just like still 22, but like this wisdom of what I've come and, who I've interacted with and things that I've seen, done, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So it's definitely just something that needs to definitely, or, it has its perks. Being overall black, being black has its perks, but so sadly It has a lot more, not deficits, but cons to it sometimes, just in the real world because of things that happen, unfortunately.
And there's also a good author that you should check out. His name is Emmanuel Acho, and he like wrote a book called Uncomfortable Conversations with a Black Man.
Okay.
And he goes into that whole thing that you mentioned about Mr. Klima. There's like videos on it. Like I was first introduced because Matthew McConaughey hopped onto there and started talking to him about like, you know, what is my part in this, in like the Black Lives Matter movement. And just like he was educating himself about what it means to be white and how he could be more inclusive. And it was really cool.
Okay.
And he does a whole bunch of other like videos with that. He's also the host of The Bachelor, the most recent season. He's a yeah.
But he replaced Chris Hansen, right?
Yeah.
Wait, like To Catch a Predator, Chris Hansen?
Well, maybe it's not his name. I'm actually bad with names. But okay, The Bachelor. There's this like, I mean, a white man who's been the host for so long. But I'm not sure if y'all knew this was like the first season of the Bachelor where there was a black male like being the Bachelor.
Oh.
And the girl he ended up picking was actually a white girl who it ended up, you know, comes from the South and had kind of participated in all these racist events and stuff. So he was just caught like vehemently defending her on a podcast, and of course, you know, no one really took that well. So when it came to like the last conversation, they chose him instead to facilitate that conversation. And I think he did a really good job of playing the middle, I guess.
Yeah, like that gray area. Okay, that's interesting to know. It's good to know. I don't really watch reality TV or TV in general, so that's, you know, all new information to me.
Yeah.
It's funny you say that because I never watched The Bachelor either, but me and my line sister actually really made it a point to watch this season because there's never been a black person. It was just really funny to see how he navigated this role.
Yeah.
And yeah, but I wanted to kind of touch on something that you mentioned earlier about, you know, being in the space, and I feel like kind of what having privilege means and how we should be using privilege. And Azwani, you also mentioned this as well about Matthew McConaughey and how he decided to ask, like, how can I help? And I feel like sometimes when we do have privilege to exist in spaces where others cannot, it's that much more important that we do use our voices when we have the capacity to do so.
Definitely, yeah.
All the people that had those experiences that you observed throughout, like, they couldn't be in that classroom with you. So you had the opportunity to, you know, to kind of have this woke mindset. I don't know if woke's the word we can even use anymore, but you know what I mean? Like that.
Yeah, I get it.
That mindset of being experienced in these issues and then being in a space that did not have that experience. So you use your privilege for good and expose people to a perspective they may not have known before. So I think that's really important.
It is. It's one of the highlights that I feel like has been all throughout my college education. Just being able to be a voice for the unheard. It's very comfortable, like knowing that I am at a place where I can do that, because I know a lot of people just aren't, whether it's circumstantial, based on their home life, or just sometimes they just made one bad decision and no one wants to listen to them anymore. So, but I actually want to do something or talk about something a little bit more personal to you, maybe. But the prompt is: do you find yourself to be outside of the quote unquote norm of a black girl? And if you do, the second part of that question is a two-part, is what is that norm to you? And do you, or if you like it, why? Or if you don't like it, why?
So I think it's really interesting because I think I probably would have answered yes if I was in high school, because I mean, y'all probably knew me. My best friend was a Jewish girl. I really I wouldn't call myself antisocial because I think I like people, but I had a friend that I just kind of that was my homegirl, so I really didn't feel a need to.
Did you just stuck to, like, that's the
exactly.
Homie,
Like, that was my home, and like, you know, so I feel like that. And then I was also a weeb, like a huge anime nerd, so I feel like I was always the one in the car. My mom's just like, oh yeah, don't hand all the aux, you know, she's about to play some anime opening or something. So I feel like, especially being younger, I would definitely say yes. I felt like an outsider, and I felt like sometimes I couldn't find as many people in the black community who had some of those similar interests that I did. I think that again, it kind of goes into this idea of like this perfect black person, or this black person that we're all trying to like aspire to be almost, but I think that that person doesn't exist, and we're always like almost berating each other, or like questioning each other's blackness because you're deviating from this standard that honestly is really unclear in the first place.
Right.
And I feel like coming to college and just seeing how many different Black people there were, I feel like I'm a Black person. There's nothing I can do to change that. That's my experience. This is my culture. This is in my genes, my blood. So I definitely don't feel like I'm like a different Black person. I think I'm just one of many Black people who have different interests.
Yeah, like I said earlier, there's no one Black experience, and it's like I don't always want to, we all three of us, I'm just from this short conversation that we've had already, we all have an idea of what it means to use our standing as black people for a better cause. Like, we know how to talk about situations that need to be talked about, but we don't always want to do that. We don't always want to, whether you're a guy or a woman, you don't always want to pick up a ball and dribble. You don't always want to be a rapper. There are multiple activities and hobbies that you can get into, and I feel like a lot of the reason why some Black people don't get into it is because they grew up just around these like subset of things that Blacks are expected to do. So I forgot what song it was. It might have been J. Cole, but it's like you're either expected to pick up a ball and dribble or rap or something. Just those two mainly are like how specifically Black men are expected to get out of the hood or out of the ghetto. When it's like, no, I can be an advertisement major like Aswani. Like, I love graphic design. I can do what Darrell likes. I'm a psychology major. I like picking people's brains. I like getting to know their experiences. And I'm sorry, I don't know your major now. What is it?
I'm an MCD bio major, so
okay.
I like science.
Yeah, like I want to be a scientist. I want to, make the next best thing in the science realm. There's a whole bunch of subsections that you can't just fit into one word, and that word being Black. You can't do that. And I feel like, no, I don't feel like, I know for a fact that unfortunately Black women have it a lot harder than Black men when it comes to not only social standards, but also just, I would say maybe work, it's not experience. Just they have an overall harder time, and go ahead.
I'm sorry.
No.
I think you're kind of pinpointing that kind of issue of intersectionality, to where I feel like as a Black woman, you sometimes have to battle between, okay, am I going to fight for women's rights or am I going to fight for Black rights? And a lot of the time, feminism is very dominated by white women.
Yes.
So there's not really a space for you to feel represented.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of times in the Black community, a lot of the issues that we do discuss are centered around Black males, I guess. Mm-hmm. Which again is completely valid. And I think it's interesting to say, like, I don't know, this may be a bit controversial. I definitely feel like women go through a lot of oppression, but I feel like specifically the oppression that Black males face is like, I guess the gap between our privileges is not as wide as it would be for a white male and a white woman. I still feel like Black males are significantly oppressed in ways and to where their lives are in danger. Mm-hmm. And also women, our lives are in danger. Yes. Being women, if it's in the medical field, if it's, I mean, not in the medical field, but if it's, going to a hospital and not being treated like a person, being treated as if you don't have pain. Uh-huh. There are many ways in which society just discriminates against us. So, yeah, I don't know. I feel like it's kind of hard to really pinpoint a struggle, because some people may not ever experience any of these hardships, and some people may experience all of them. So, I guess we're kind of like operating on like the average. Yeah. But I do agree that, like, I wish sometimes in the Black space, and when we do advocate for Black people, it could be more open-minded in general. Yes. Beyond just women, also to queer folk and all the other identities that aren't highlighted as well. It's kind of like our first priority should be helping Black people, mm-hmm. and everything else doesn't matter. However, there are Black people who are trans women and all these things that are also affecting the Black community, but we act as if it's not important almost.
Yeah, I get that as well. I'm glad you brought up trans women, because trans Black women, I'm not going to try to give you the statistic, but I do know that they are amongst the most discriminated and prejudiced, like, I guess, subset of black people, because it's the textbook definition, or what we've learned in high school and middle school, is like, oh, Black men were specifically big and strong, and that's why they were bred on these slave farms or plantations or whatever. And the fact that a black man could, be more feminine or have more feminine qualities. Oh, he can't do that. That's what's going on here. You're an F word. You're, this, that, or the other thing. It's like, I'm still a black person. So what's going on here? And I want to sort of segue that into another conversation, which is colorism. Actually, if we're taking it from outside of, from the outside world into like strictly the black community, Aswani, as many can tell, you are the lightest out of us three. And so I want to know, like, have people made like comments, like let's say someone who doesn't know you, have you ever heard someone make a comment like, oh, black people do this or whatever, not knowing that you were part or, even completely black? Like what microaggressions have you heard or just, had thrown at you or just heard tossed around in your space?
So I've been fortunate enough to like not place myself in like groups of people where that would happen.
Okay.
So I don't know exactly what they would say if they have said anything. But yeah, I definitely am very light, especially since COVID. I'm staying in all the time playing games. And I think it's a little bit less like harsh here because there is such a large amount of like black people here being in the South. And especially since like I've been growing out my hair, I feel like there isn't as much like prejudice because, for example, like when my hair is really short, like I kind of look black, I kind of look like Puerto Rican, you didn't really know. But now I think it's like a little bit more obvious. And plus, like I definitely like in terms of my language when I'm hanging out with my friends, I'll drop the N-word every once in a while. So like, that's an indicator. But
how surprised they look when you drop it. Okay.
Yeah, right?
Yeah, that too.
Or I think it was definitely worse when I was in Pali because there was like you knew that there was like a black community, but then you also had like the stereotypical black individuals that were like on a sports team. They were like super dark, and then you had me over there just like, hey guys, I like Photoshop.
It's like tall, dark, and handsome, and then like quirky kid or something like that.
Yeah. So yeah, it hasn't been too bad, thankfully.
Okay. Nala, what about you? Have you, as a black woman who is, I don't even know, there's so many different weird terms like brown skin, dark skin, light skin. What do you classify yourself as, if you use any of those like terms?
So I'm really glad that we are in the space to bring up colorism because this is something that I'm really passionate about. I personally don't like to consider myself as being light skin, as quote unquote team light skin. Like I don't identify with like the light skin struggle, like the light skin mentality personally. But I do understand that like my skin may be lighter than others and there are privileges that are associated with that. So I feel like I want to be able to acknowledge my privilege in a way, but also I acknowledge my privilege. I just personally don't like feel super connected to like I feel like some people who have lighter skin and maybe don't understand that it is a privilege are really like happy to be lighter skin. They're like they make it such a huge part of their identity. So I just feel like it's really important to address because again, like I feel like that's one of the issues in the black community that we really don't address. I think sometimes people think that addressing it is divisive, and I feel like I don't really understand the mentality because I do feel like within the community itself we should also be able to have an open dialogue and resolve our issues and not expect like others to do it for us. It's
an internal issue that needs to be handled, and it can't really be handled by anyone other than us, like you said. We can't have it happens a lot where I'll use a white woman. Like a white woman will say, oh, this person is getting flack because they're white. Let me rephrase that. Being white passing causes a lot of external forces to like figure that or to think that they have a say in the matter. And it's like, look, this has nothing to do with you. So could you please like step aside And can we figure out what's really going on internally? Because a light-skinned person who I will admit that I feel as though light-skinned individuals, or quote-unquote light-skinned individuals, have to try to prove their blackness a lot more than those who are of a darker skin tone. And they, those who don't, they acknowledge their privilege, like you said, and like how you do. But they also want people to know that, hey, I also have problems, because to you, I may be, just white passing black man, but I'm still gonna have trouble with the police. I'm still gonna have problems. Maybe not so much getting a job, but I'm still gonna have problems doing that. Versus people who are on the latter end of the spectrum when it comes to skin tone, it's like, oh, you have it better than me. I can't get anything because of the tone of my skin. And it's where do we find this bridge to sort of just say, okay, forget all of that. We are all, while some of us may have advantages, a lot of us really don't have the same opportunities as you. But how can we come together and make sure that we all are equal in terms of what we can achieve or what we can just get out of life?
I think it's kind of almost an equity against equality. We can't tailor the same solution to everybody because everyone has different problems. And I do think, honestly, a problem with light-skinned people.
You can say, I mean, hey, this is non-judgment. Non-judgmental.
Is that they try to act like, oh, I'm like, you're pretending that I'm not oppressed. Like, I am oppressed. I experience oppression as well.
Yes.
I don't think anyone's doubting that they experience oppression. It's just the fact that I'm not sure if it's even a graded scale, but if you have darker skin, you may experience, I don't want to say more oppression, but you're going to experience oppression in a different way.
At a higher,
as well.
Would you say at a higher intensity, maybe?
I mean, it really depends, because also I feel like for males it may be completely different. I think that in general, darker skin is associated with masculinity. So I know sometimes I feel like males with lighter skin may feel less masculine. Mm-hmm. And as opposed to being woman identified, which is the experience I can say best, I feel like women with lighter skin have significantly more privilege because they are almost a beauty standard in certain spaces. I feel like the quote-unquote mixed woman mm-hmm. is kind of becoming more the I wouldn't even call it the beauty standard, but more accepted in like society, I guess. But especially within the Black community, you see like how normalized it is for men to seek women with lighter skin. And honestly, like sometimes you see the way that they talk about women with darker skin as if they are like less than human. I think it's quite disgusting.
Man, that's a whole other can of worms. And I was actually speaking to one of my roommates about this recently. Like I get preference, but when your preference starts to cause the issue of like you talking down on any other, if we're talking about heterosexual men or a man right now, when your preference starts to cause you to talk down on any other woman of any other race, ethnicity, background, religion, that's when it's a problem, I feel. And as long as, but see, where's the line between preference and fetishization? Yeah, sorry, that's a big word. Yeah. It's because some men are like, oh, I love you, like chocolate thunder, come on, like this, that, and the other thing. It's like, what makes you think I want to, if I'm close to, yeah, maybe I want to hear that, but I don't want to hear that from some random dude down the street, or like I don't want to hear, my vanilla chocolate drop. It's like, what are you saying right now?
Even non-Black men, and I think that's so true. I think I think being Black is beautiful, and I think society is becoming a lot more accepting of women with all skin tones. But again, sometimes you'll see like the type of women that we accept or deem beautiful, just like I feel like they're very easily sexualized.
Yes.
And I think it's kind of odd. And again, it's like, I mean, Black women have been sexualized since slavery. That's why a lot of light-skinned people exist. Mm-hmm. So that's not really a big accomplishment. It's more like, how do we treat Black women with the respect that they deserve? Honestly, the respect that a white woman gets. Beyond just being a object of sex, beyond just being just sexually attractive. I feel like there's only, in a way, I feel like it's kind of a privilege, but it's not like equality.
Yeah,
I wouldn't even call it a privilege. I feel like,
it's making the best out of a bad situation, I feel. And
exactly.
Azwani and I brought this up, I forgot what episode, but it's sort of, let me not say it's the same thing. it aligns with the conversation that we had about like OnlyFans. Like there are guys on social media constantly just degrading women who do OnlyFans. And it's like, okay, but one, you're giving them more attention. Two, you or your homeboys are gonna go buy it. So what's the point in degrading these women that you're gonna support anyway, just to make yourself feel better, to make yourself feel less guilty about, you know, purchasing content? There's nothing wrong with it, but they feel a need to like, oh, women are, you know, living life on easy mode 100% and everything like that. And I don't, there's a disconnect. Like there's something to me in their heads that just is not all the way there when it comes to, you know, that kind of subject.
I mean, in general, I feel like sex work is like one of the oldest professions that exists, and I'm not sure if OnlyFans is like considered to be sex work. So excuse my like language in that.
It is. Well,
but
yeah, it is.
like, so I just feel like a lot of times men, like, before sex work was one of the only ways that a woman could actually be independent, like being a prostitute. I mean, not saying that's the best job ever, but that's the only way a woman could really survive on her own. There weren't jobs, you know, men were like the breadwinners in like the past. Now I feel like women have a lot more equality, but we still kind of have that same connotation when it comes to sex work. And now even women are kind of bashing too, like, oh, you know, how you can do other things. Why are you going to choose to do this? And I think that it just all comes down to freedom of choice and letting people just be themselves, as long as they're being safe and being they're not putting themselves in harm's way, I guess. I feel that if someone wants to do what they want, like, and with their body, you know, sure,
Yeah,
like who's to stop them? And also, a lot of people watch porn and like benefit off of the work that people do, like, and not everyone wants to be a porn star, just genuinely. So why bash women even further for a job that honestly you wouldn't want to do?
Yeah.
Or like you would not feel comfortable doing. So yeah, it's deep, but
it is.
It's really interesting to me.
Just a quick little side note. You brought up feminism earlier, and going back to my gender studies class, there was a excerpt, and not even they're both an excerpt in just knowledge that my professor had passed on to us. It was like feminism originally was it did not include Black women, queer women of all races, Asian women, Latinx women. It was strictly only beneficial for white women. And thankfully that has turned around a lot in this day and age. But I feel like not everyone, most women who claim they are feminists but with some sort of condition. Like when it's something that they don't feel comfortable with, oh no, I can't do that. You know, oh, you're a bi woman. You know, lesbian women may say, "Oh, you're a bi woman. You can't like both men and women. Like, what's that's not right, or whatever. You can't do that." Yeah. Or if it's a woman doing OnlyFans, why are you doing OnlyFans? Like, you should appreciate yourself more. It's not that I don't appreciate myself. I appreciate myself a lot. I'm just, you know, like we said earlier, making the best out of a bad situation. That bad situation being the placement or the place that women have, you know, the place that society has deemed them like, oh, here's where you belong. You don't belong to make the same amount of money as us, or this, that, and the other thing.
I agree, and I think it kind of goes in even beyond feminism. It's like a question of are you fighting for power, or are you fighting for equality? If you're only fighting for yourself and to make life easier for you, then you're not really fighting for equality. You're just fighting for a better experience. Right. And you're just honestly, in certain ways, just fighting to be the oppressor. Because the moment you got that power, you would oppress people further, like you're doing now, even with the little power you do have. Yeah. So, yeah, I think I just think it's interesting how people will only fight for what is relevant to them, almost, and not really feel the need to educate themselves further.
It's a crabs in a bucket mentality for sure, unfortunately. Yeah. But I was wondering, do you have anything you want to toss in? I know we've been kind of just bouncing back and forth. Sorry about that.
Yeah, no. Because like there's just a lot of different ways that we can go. Like, for example, if we want to talk about like sex work and how people view that like, because we touched on it on a previous episode, but it goes into the whole idea of like incels and individuals who just like look down upon like others just because like their life is like seemingly like worth less just because like they don't have the same like mentality as others. But then also there's this individual named Angela White, and she's a porn star, and she was on a podcast episode of Tangentially Speaking that I listened to, I think when I was in high school. But she explained like how she got into the business, like how fulfilling it is to her.
Mhm.
And it just has opened up so many opportunities for her. And it was really great because like it helped like humanize like pixels that like we just are used to seeing on the screen, you know? And it was just really nice to see. And then to go back to colorism a little bit, shout out Miss Christopher for showing us Hotel Rwanda.
Yes.
That was the first movie where I was able to fully like understand colorism. I was with Don Cheadle, and it's such an odd like conversation to even have. Like we're all black, like light skin or dark
At the end of the
skin.
day, yeah.
You still have the same origins,
Mhm.
you know. But like there still is a lot of just like issues that sort of happen because like I guess based off of like what society has told me of like what it means to be a black person, I've never really like felt black, you know. And I've also never like fully felt Puerto Rican.
Mhm.
So when there's like this talk about oppression of like black individuals, when like George Floyd started, or not started, but like you know really picked up Black Lives Matter. Obviously, I felt a part of it, but also I just felt isolated, like really badly. So there's so many different layers to it. I don't know where to go.
That's a fair point, and you know, you being half black and half Puerto Rican, it definitely is. You know, where do I like fit into all of this? Because both issues like that those communities face are very much important to you, I can imagine. But it's like, what if one side may accept you more than the other, or neither side will fully accept you because of you're a quote unquote mutt, for lack of a better term. That's what they. I know not many people
Yeah.
refer to mixed race people today like that, but at one point they did. So I can only think of how bad it's been just for your mental. Just be like, oh, like who do I side with, or just where do I go from here?
So, do you identify more as mixed race or black?
I would identify more as black, but only because I've had much more experience with, for example, like I basically grew up at Durrell's house, and like all of my Puerto Rican family, like they're in Puerto Rico, you know, so I'm not able to have those sort of experiences that are traditional. Like I definitely do have fond memories of like my Puerto Rican family, my time home, but I feel like I identify mostly as like black.
It's interesting because a close friend of mine also, um, I wouldn't say she's against. I don't know how to say this, but she feels like maybe because of the past and because of the one drop rule, people who are from mixed origins are usually identify as black, especially just the way that our black genes work. You know, it's really very obvious once you are mixed with someone who is black. But also wondering if we should kind of be more open-minded about calling people mixed race so that we can kind of um, make sure that we're expressing all of their identities. And I just kind of wondered how you felt about that, especially considering that that is an identity of yours.
Yeah, I would say that like I definitely like identify as both. I would just say that like because like especially since like I love cooking and food, whenever like I cook for someone, like the first time I'll always cook Puerto Rican rice and beans and everyone loves it 'cause it's awesome. Shout out moms. Um but I almost identify or like primarily identify as black because I want to make sure that like my voice is heard, and that if there's social situations that would cause for like just in like uncomfortable conversations for them, like I like want to like help lead the conversation in the right direction. Whereas like if I just identified as mixed, I it would just like be a little bit harder to pinpoint who I am, if that makes sense.
Okay, I see that. I can see that. But
That's interesting.
All right, so we're coming up on the 10-minute mark. I know you have to head out, but do you have anything that any weird topics you want to talk about? It doesn't have to be serious. It can be something wacky. Ask us about what we've been up to. I'll gladly fill you in because it's been a while since I've last seen you.
I know.
Yeah.
Put me in the spot. I don't know if we can do all that on a podcast.
Yeah. Life did life things.
FaceTime.
Life did life things. It's okay.
No, it's
Yeah.
dang. Okay. And putting me on the spot. That's why I asked you because I'm so confused. Okay.
How about this? What would you say was your wildest college experience thus far? I know you still have a month and some change to go, but wildest college experience that's legal that you can share.
Yeah. I'm just wondering. Like, I really feel like Santa Cruz is not the party school.
Really?
Like,
Really?
It's not. It's in the middle of the forest, so it's like, I mean, if you're really about it, you're about to go to a forest party. I'm black. I'm not gonna go in the middle of the forest at 12 o'clock at night and walk home drunk. That just does not sound even appealing to me at all. So I don't know. I think I can't. Oh well, thinking about things I can actually talk about.
Ooh.
Or if
I would definitely recommend just joining an organization. I mean, it's kind of, y'all on your way out, but maybe later in life, just joining an organization like a fraternity, especially a historically black one, because I think that beyond just the memories you will also have community for the rest of your life. And that's all I can really say.
Okay.
About, yeah. But again, I'm not that crazy. I'm more of a chill, laid back type. This podcast, as far as I'm going to share.
We'll talk about all the extras off camera, but let's talk about what you can't talk about. Your sorority, like, who are they? What are your letters? And what has your experience been, if you can share?
So thank you. So I'm currently the president of the Zeta Phi Beta Sorority Incorporated Gamma Phi chapter.
Okay.
I'm not sure if y'all are aware, but there are historically black Greek-lettered organizations known as the National Panhellenic Council, more colloquially known as the Divine Nine. I am in one of those organizations. I feel like Azwani, in a way, may have experience seeing them just being in the South. I'm not sure, though. But also, Darrell, you may have some of those orgs on campus. There are plenty of fraternities, Alpha Phi Alpha. Martin Luther King was a part of that organization. I feel like before kind of growing up where I grew up, I really wasn't exposed as much to the organizations, especially being on the West Coast where it really isn't as prominent. Right. But I think that it's really funny once you do kind of get immersed into this world, you see how many people are a part of these organizations. Kamala Harris being a member of Alpha Kappa Alpha, and you just see how in many ways black people do have these resources and being able to network and build community at the collegiate level. I think it's interesting.
Okay, it's definitely, congrats to you for becoming the president. I did not know that, but very much so, congratulations. That's a feat in itself. But I would say that from just everything, unfortunately, I had a very bad first experience with fraternities. Like that they're money schemes or whatever. You don't really get anything out of them. It was so like 50-50. I was, I would just stay away from it. But if I had all the information, I most definitely would have considered it more. I'm not saying I would have joined outright, but I do wish I had
which did you consider joining?
I had a family friend. I can't. It was on CSUN for sure. They have them here at CSUN, but I can't remember the name for the life of me, and I'm gonna regret it because I'm gonna remember as soon as this is over.
CSUN has great dorms. I just want to say that your housing situation is like amazing.
I've never been up there. I'm in an apartment like right across the street from campus, but
Oh.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. But I can't remember for the life of me, unfortunately. But I really do wish I had more information about them, not just they take X amount of money from you at the beginning. I was like, whoa, I'm already broke. I don't.
Wait. Yeah. Were they like black or were they just like a non-black?
They may have been non-black based off the reaction you're giving me. I think they were non-black. Like I said, I don't know much about them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I would have been interested to join, but art school, baby, we don't have any There's no Greek life here at all.
Oh, really? Is that at every art school or just?
I think it's just this one specifically, and I don't know the exact reasoning behind it, but I could imagine it's because there's a whole lot of like art kids that are super introverted, that like pledging and like all
Yeah.
that like hazing and stuff wouldn't go over too well.
Yeah.
But yeah, sounds cool.
Yeah. There's always, you know, you can always join at the grad chapter level, but yeah, it's at our campus, I mean, there's only two. Like, there's only us and the ladies of Delta Sigma Theta. So there's only two sororities. We don't even have any frats currently. So it's really unfortunate. Like, I think in general, being at a PWI, like, they're, you know, it's really hard to, like, retain these organizations. So I understand that.
Yeah, it's college life has been kind of weird for me. You know, I got rescinded from the school I wanted to go to coming out of high school. I was like, oh, okay. So
Why?
it was.
How does
It was a grade that I had gotten like math the first semester of senior year. It was terrible, but you know.
No,
Yeah,
really?
Yeah, but it ended up.
Who's your teacher?
It was. I'll tell you after. I'll tell you after.
Okay.
But you know, I ended up going to community college for 2 years. Had to pay no money really. And then transferred to CSUN. I got accepted there and to Dominguez Hills. I was like, you know what, CSUN. I have friends who go here who I can get an apartment with. It'll all be hunky-dory and fine. And then, you know, I'm here. Unfortunately, I didn't really have much of a college life because, you know, community college, everyone wants to get their work done and go straight home. But I have made a friend or two here at CSUN, and, you know, I'm okay with that. I've never been one for many friends. So, you know, I'm fine with the few that I have.
And then Corona probably hit too, so it kind of probably really took away even more.
Yeah, unfortunately, but
They-
you know, a year later, we're here, we're still kicking, so it hasn't been that bad.
We're about to graduate, and we're still like going to be black educated. What is it? Black educated folks with degrees in just a matter of months.
Yes,
And that's crazy.
And
man.
already.
okay, 3 minutes and then we'll do the whole little outro. It's crazy how long it's been since it's been 4 years. That is a long
Doesn't feel
time.
like it.
Long ass.
Julie will send me snaps sometimes, like, "Oh yeah, 3 years ago." I'm like, "For real?"
Like what?
Man, I think of time in terms of like albums. And have you guys listened to Anderson .Paak?
Yeah.
Yes, no, maybe.
I'm bad at music.
It's
I'll be like, but yeah.
Well, one of my favorite albums from him, Malibu. It came out in early 2016. I'm like, that is so long ago. That was what, 25 years ago now, basically. I'm like, damn,
Basically, yeah, 2021.
Summer 16.
Yeah.
That was a summer. Yeah, I remember that for sure.
Yeah, 2016 was probably my favorite year of existing on this planet so far.
Specifically summer to like, it was definitely good. But I'm gonna go ahead and wrap it up here. Nala, let the people know if you have anything that you want to shout out, like a business, a friend's business, anything.
Okay, well, I don't have any businesses at the time, but I would love to shout out my homegirl Peterson Productivity, who has a whole lifestyle page and who really just be keeping my life together with all of her productivity and life togetherness.
Yeah.
So definitely follow her if you really want some tips on being that B word, essentially.
Okay. Send me the link and I'll link it.
Emails too. Exactly, I got you. And yeah, if y'all are graduating this year, congratulations. You know, if you're just trying to get through this Corona year, you got this, and congratulations once we do get through this eventually. And yeah, get vaccinated.
Yeah, I'm getting vax tomorrow.
Man, I'm getting mine. I need it expeditiously.
Yes, sir.
Don't get the Johnson & Johnson. I'm sorry.
That's
was
baby
nasty.
oil in your arm. I'm good on that. I'm good on that. But Nala, thank you for joining us. Aswani, of course, you know what it is. Your family. I appreciate it. I love you. I hope you guys enjoyed the episode. You learned something new. You know, see a fresh new face and get a fresh new take on things. And we will see you guys in the next one. Bye-bye.
Bye.